I think there are a lot of places in life where you get to work with smart people and you get to work with nice people, but those aren't the same people. We tolerate failure. We give people an option to make mistakes. And I think that that's important. To fix a system, you have to understand how the old system worked to begin with, and then you can decide how you want to improve it.
So most of the people doesn't even remember an old saying, cash is gold. In the past few decades, with the credit cards and online payment solutions, cash is becoming almost an extinct species. We all got used to cell phone, financial transactions, checking balance, and or shopping online. To catch up with the rapid changes that are happening in the fintech market, we need the real change officer. And we found him. My guest today once said that the bank of the future just be as an address, like a telephone number, social security number, or QR code, and users will never need to visit a bank website to see the balance, make payment, receive a loan, or collect a payroll. About new and improved Google Pay, future of fintech, and vision of decentralized fintech world, I'm going to speak today with the head of business development and strategy, fintech expert, writer for Forbes magazine, and the really cool guy, Nik Milanovic. Stay with us and get the unique insights from a man that is changing a new world of finance. Hello, Nik, and welcome to the Change Officer podcast.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you are so young, but your, intro to this episode was really full of things which we could say about you. And we have to start somewhere. So I have to ask you, how do you feel in the new and open New York?
Oh, it feels good. It's been too long. Nobody moves to New York because they want to stay inside. Everybody moves to New York to go out to restaurants, to meet other people, to go outside. And so I think it was a pretty frustrating year for everybody who lived in the city. 8 million people shut into tiny apartments. So it's good to be back out. And I think everybody's pretty excited.
Yes. And so you had the possibility, you were living in Washington, you were living in California, and now you're living in New York. Can you tell us the difference a little bit about, as you said, living in New York, living outside and living in the city and throughout the city?
Well, we need to have you out here, first thing. We need to have you out here and we can experience the difference. But it's, I grew up in Washington, D.C. My father's from Belgrade. My mother's from California. And I moved out to California for 10 years. And when you're in California, it's beautiful. And life is very easy and the weather is amazing, but you kind of feel a little bit like you're at the edge of the world. You're connected to the US, but you're not connected to much else. Where in New York, you feel like you're at a crossroads. You're between the US, you're between Latin America, you're between Europe, and the energy is just completely different living in New York City. Everybody kind of moves here with a purpose. And so I think people are a lot more extroverted and a lot more interested in each other in a way that you don't get everywhere else. And so when you take all those people and you shut them inside their apartments, which are small, for over a year, you get a lot of energy coming out of that experience.
Yeah, and so this fireworks basically was announcing the new age of New York and things. Okay, so while working in and studying in California, you were on one side of the fintech industry. You were in the fintech industry all the time of all your business life, but you were, as you say, the pirate. Can you explain this pirating thing, and can you explain this Navy thing that came after?
Yeah, it's so I've been working in fintech for 10 years now, which is maybe the most boring sentence I've ever said in my life. It makes me think that I need a new hobby or something else to focus on. But for the first 8 of those years, I was working for small startups. And so in tech, you have huge companies that are, hundreds of thousands of employees, and you have tiny early stage startups, most of which don't end up succeeding. And it's a big risk. And so when I got out of college, I had been working in microfinance, which focuses on financial services for mostly for poor customers. And I got introduced to the co-founders of a new startup in fintech called Funding Circle. It had a different name at the time. And I thought this seemed like such an interesting way to get financial services online and distribute that to more people without being limited by capacity of having, an in-person location. And so I ended up joining as the first hire over there. And for about a year and a half, we were in what I call the valley of death, where every week it looked like things might work out or things might go catastrophically wrong and not work. And that's just every single week. Yeah. Every week you wake up and you don't know if the company's going to be around next week. But we eventually did get out of the valley of death, and it got more and more rewarding for the next 3.5 years. And at the 5-year mark, I kind of stepped back and said, okay, this has been a great experience. Time to do it all over again. And I joined another early stage startup. It's one of the first 5 or 6 people at a company called Pedal in New York. Yeah. This time we were building a credit card for people who were immigrants, for people who were low income, who didn't have a credit score, but still, had good finances and could get access to credit if a fintech would come along and let them. So I was there for 3 years. And then after, 2 super, super early stage small companies, the biggest company I'd ever worked for was when I left Funding Circle. It was about 600 people. I decided to join Google. And when I joined Google, I think it was about 100,000 employees. So it felt a lot like, leaving the pirates to go join the Navy for a little bit and see, instead of trying to run a small rowboat and keep it from capsizing, see what it's like to steer a big aircraft carrier.
You mentioned that you were always turned to the customers that cannot have the credit cards, like who are struggling with the payments and loans and stuff. Do you find any similarities now working with Google and Google Pay? Do you find any similarities of maybe listening to the audiences and communities and trying to fit in with some products and services providing through Google Pay?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will say, I'm not a spokesperson for Google or Google Pay, so I'm kind of limited in how much I can say. And I can't really say anything on behalf of the company. But on my own kind of personal behalf, I'm really impressed by how thoughtful the people I get to work with are, and kind of how deeply they care about these problems. I think there are a lot of places in life where you get to work with smart people and you get to work with nice people, but those aren't the same people. And at Google, it struck me kind of how smart and kind the people I get to work with are. And these are people who are deeply thoughtful and deeply passionate about how do we build better products for the people who really need them the most.
Yeah, exactly. In November 2020, Google Pay was redesigned for the United States version, and it was based upon a previous Indian and Singaporean version. So does it mean that they developed something? Because we know that the contactless payments in Asia are booming. Everything is through QR codes, payments on the phones, and everything. That was a good insight for Google Pay to roll out the new services, and there's a good catch of being global, like listening to all the good best practices all over the world.
I know that in the US, we like to think that we're always on the forefront and the bleeding edge of technology, but it's incredible when you go see systems that are built for completely different use cases, kind of how ahead of the curve they can be. And what I heard from a friend, I've got a good friend who lived in Seoul in South Korea for a couple of years before moving back to San Francisco. And he said when his friends visited him from Seoul in SF, we didn't have 4G at the time. We still don't have 5G. The train system is almost non-existent in San Francisco and runs very slowly. And they just said that it felt like moving down a step on the development ladder when they come from Seoul to San Francisco. And I think you see a lot of the same things when you look at payment systems that have evolved internationally, and then you come back to the US. You see, in China, for instance, people leapfrogged credit cards almost entirely. And credit cards are growing a little bit now, but people moved from using cash in big cities straight into using QR codes and using their phones for payment. Because you just never had the time to develop that old architecture and infrastructure. And so what that means is also people can send each other money in real time. In the US, we're getting there now. And there are initiatives that are getting us there. But still, for the most part, if I want to send you money from my bank account to your bank account, what I'm going to do if I don't want to pay massive fees is I'm going to send an ACH. And the ACH will take 3 to 5 days to process. And then it'll clear your bank account. And sometimes, for reasons that we can't really explain, it'll be returned and there'll be a return code. And the return code could just say, there are a lot of return codes. One of the return codes is no error found. And we have no idea why it failed. So these other systems that were developed without kind of all the legacy in financial services can be light years ahead of some of what we have to deal with. And I think that that's really a big benefit of taking a global perspective.
No, that's fully right. When you said that that your friend went step back, moving back to San Francisco, still there are 100 unicorns in San Francisco and 50 plus unicorns in New York City. Something is going up there. People. I don't know. Can you explain that? Like how there is money in the other parts of the world, but how? Because one of the things that you also do is help provides financial solutions and corporate cards to startups and things who are struggling, who are in debt. How do you call it? Debt Valley.
Yeah.
How do you explain? Sorry. Is it people know how to live with the risk, or is it people know how to invest with the risk? Is it both?
I think we tolerate failure pretty well, and we give people an option to make mistakes, and I think that's important. You can see elements of that in so many different areas in society in the U.S. We have bankruptcy laws that allow people to, erase prior bankruptcies and move along with their lives and their businesses. I think that kind of environment that encourages you to make a mistake and to do something that doesn't succeed also encourages people to take more risks and other people to support those risks.
No, there are more and more collaborations. Obviously, we don't have to talk about Google in the means of digital transformation, which other companies are doing by acquiring or partnering with the startups. But there are some interesting collaborations between Google and some fintech startups that are really something new and fresh on the market.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's really what I focus on in my work, you have large tech companies that have built massive platforms, and these platforms have reach, they have distribution, they have visibility. But a platform, people kind of use the word platform a lot when they refer to a tech company, and many tech companies are not platforms. They're standalone products. What differentiates a platform is something that you can build on top of. It's something that you can stand on top of. And so, Windows is a platform because Windows was an operating system that anybody could build an app or a product into. The App Store is a platform on your phone because anybody can build an app that sits within the App Store. And so, big tech companies will work with small fintech companies because for a lot of big tech companies, and this doesn't always apply, but for a lot, you don't necessarily want to build all the financial services yourself. You don't want to get a bank license. You don't want to, hold the risk on loans that are issued. You just want to be a platform where your users on one side can access financial services from your fintech partners on the other side. And so you're seeing a lot of interesting partnerships in that respect, taking off across the tech industry. There's a couple investors, Angela Strange over at Andreessen and Matt Harris over at Bain, who started talking about this in 2019, that more and more platforms are going to do what's called embedded fintech or embedded financial services, where it looks like the platform is offering you financial services, but it's really done through a partner. So Lyft, now offers credit card and loans to its users. DoorDash does the same thing, but this is all done through partners rather than just doing it themselves.
But there is a direction going in. When I was reading Exponential Organization by Salim Ismail, there was an amazing example about Google Maps and Waze and how they partnered and saw the opportunity. And I'm really, just yesterday, I was lost here in the woods, and my Google Maps helped me, got back on the real good track, And I as a geographist, I cannot be amazed. I cannot not be amazed every day by Google Maps. So more and more we can see in the fintech world the same thing happening, like Waze. In Google Maps it was Waze, and in the fintech world it is Wise. Which became almost like a banking service, and not almost. I'm the user, and I have to say, I'm the user of Wise banking because it took me a day and a half to start an account in the country where usually it takes 45 days. And you have to visit physically, and you have to give, I don't know what tests, blood tests or whatnot. So fintech is making the world a better place, as everybody says that in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, everybody wants to make the world a better place. You'd think the world would be a lot better by now.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, look, the other phrase that everybody throws around a lot is democratizing. Everybody wants to democratize everything, and what that means is just providing more access to more people. And I think it's not enough to just say, okay, here's a bank account, now anybody can get it, but also here's an account and it's much faster to open it. Here's an account and the barriers to getting it are much lower. Rather than needing to travel to the next town over and visit a branch, you can just do it on your phone. And you don't even need to do it on a smartphone anymore. If you have a feature phone, you can sign up by just providing all your information by text message. And so I think it's this constant lowering of the barriers to enable services for more people. That's really the opportunity. And so now you have, companies like Branch in Kenya that allow people to, send and receive peer-to-peer loans just on, text feature phones. I think you're going to increasingly see, more opportunities where more different kinds of financial services are available to people with very minimal barriers. As long as they can find a way to do this responsibly.
As you said, democratizing. We are working with a company actually in Singapore called Holy Wally, which is basically a service to a financial services to create their own digital wallets. As you said, so you don't have to not code. You don't have to have it's just a click and play. Plug and play, as they say. Just you can have your own digital wallet. The guys are back in Singapore, but covering all Asia Pacific, and it's amazing what is going on. And as you said, democratizing. But there is also one other world starting with DE, and that's decentralizing. And this is the topic. This is the topic. I think it will be a hot topic in the time to come. What is your personal opinion? Personal opinion, just.
It's already a hot topic. You can't get people to shut up about decentralizing. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you look at so the version of the web that we're using today is what a lot of people refer to as Web 2.0. And the idea is that for Web 1.0, the earliest format of the internet, you had people and companies and publishers that maintained their own information, and they would just publish websites. So the same as having a store or writing a book or running an ad. There was one content creator, and that content creator would put up information. So for instance, Honda puts up a website, and all the information on the Honda website is contributed by themselves. Web 2.0 was the emergence of these platforms for user-generated content. So you have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Blogspot. The list goes on for Web 2.0 companies that allow people to come and generate their own content. And it's that platform that really enabled the kind of radical growth in the next phase of the internet, because all of a sudden you don't need to know how to build a website. You don't need to have the financial resources to actually create Honda.com. You can just publish information on any of the platforms that are available to you and interact with other people who are publishing as well. So these platforms creating user-generated content are kind of like the indicator of Web 2.0. Web 3.0 or Web 3 is what a lot of people in the crypto space are working on developing right now. And it's extremely exciting. And it's still, even years into people talking about Web 3, it's still extremely young. And I think that there are kind of emerging killer use cases, but it hasn't gained mass adoption yet. I don't work in crypto, so I don't actually really have like an expert opinion on this. I'm sitting in the armchair. I'm observing, my smarter friends than I am developing Web3 products. But basically, what the promise is for this decentralization is that instead of relying on a central platform to basically say how you can post content and how you can represent yourself and what you can do with that information, decentralization is trying to remove the middleman and allow truly peer-to-peer networks. So that means that individuals can buy and sell to each other on terms that are set by a contract, but they, in part can determine the terms of that contract without needing a central intermediary. It means that people can post information like they would on Instagram, but they can actually receive, the payments and the proceeds from ads that are run on their accounts, rather than all advertising, going to one central party. People can browse the internet, and if they like what they are looking at, they can use a token to reward the content creators that they're watching. So, it's like going to another version of YouTube where I have a built-in wallet in my browser. And if I like a content creator on YouTube, I can choose to give them some of the money out of that built-in wallet. Or that creator can show ads, and then, the ad companies are basically paying me and paying the creator in order to have me look at the ad. So it's really just changing this like model of Web 2.0, where you're working through an intermediary and making it truly peer-to-peer in a way that protects information, in a way that protects privacy, in a way that lets people change the entire economic structure so that users on both sides are getting rewarded. So it's still super early, and it's going to be interesting to see if Web 3.0 platforms end up unseating Web 2.0, but it'll be really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I can see, like we are democratizing, and we are about to we are going towards decentralization. We don't know what will happen definitely, but I think it's really exciting being in New York, in US, in the like a hotspot and or hot pot of the financial industry. And are you in any business or no business touch with the guys from the Wall Street and things, because it's very excited there these days, like all the Reddits and Robin Hoods and everything, how the old industries, old money react to the new money and new industries,
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a lot of crossover between these populations. And so in fintech and in decentralized finance, there are kind of like two camps. And one camp says, I hate bankers. Bankers are boring. We don't want to work with bankers. And I think that perspective kind of misses out on something, which is to fix a system, you have to understand how the old system worked to begin with, and then you can decide how you want to improve it. And so, you have a lot of examples of revolutions throughout history where there's kind of like a lack of understanding of why things were set up the way they were, and it made it hard to improve upon them. I mean, you look at like the Jacobins of the French Revolution in the late 1700s, and nobody had asked themselves the question of, after we depose the monarchy, what's the system that we put in place there? And why were things configured the way they were? And how do we create a succession plan? And so you have this period of chaos. And so I think you have kind of like a similar risk where you want to take a financial system that doesn't work for everyone, where you have gatekeepers, and like you said, you have old money, and you want to tear it down and build a new financial system that does work for everyone. That's the right goal, but you need the right methods as well. And so if you shut out Wall Street and you shut out bankers and you shut out people who worked in the old financial system, then what you get is a lot of people kind of relearning the hard lessons of finance. And so what you've seen in DeFi, what you saw, 3 years ago in crypto, is a lot of people learning, why you collateralize loans, why you avoid over leveraging, what the waterfall effects are when you have a run on the bank because people lose confidence in the value of the token and the stabilizing mechanism doesn't work. These are lessons that have been learned over hundreds of years in finance, and people are learning them very quickly right now. But you need people who kind of come from banking backgrounds to help you, build the new world from the ground up. So I've always been a fan of getting, more bankers to kind of leave the Navy and join the pirates and jump over the other side of the fence to help us build.
Just see how we are breathing and so on. I think that Elon Musk showed in the last few steps, how volatile the market could be and how it can be reacting to hype and FOMO things, and I think that we have to take care. I think, I think that with the new features, Google Pay is really something that will help people, ordinary people, react better on the changes that are happening in the financial world with all the new features and features to come, and be able to adapt to the change. That's the. Actually, I just wanted to cross to fill in a little bit with the word "the change" because we were talking about the changes you took in your life from the piracy to the Navy. We talked about Google Pay and new features, changes in the new features, and now we are discussing the changes going on in the world, and everything blends out nicely in our topic, and which is the change as is the only constant in life. Nik, I would really like to thank you for your time. I wish you more outdoor time in New York. And I wish you, I remember browsing through your profile. There was some fintech gathering on one terrace in New York. I don't know where it was, but I would like to visit that soon, and talk with people who are changing the world.
Definitely. We need you at the next one of those. I'm going to send you the invite for sure. I hope one way or another, if it's in Dubai, if it's in Sarnagora, if it's in New York, that we find a way to grab a beer with each other and catch up soon. Thank you again so much for having me. This is a really good conversation. I appreciate getting a chance to talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nik. And hopefully we'll see more of you in the time to come. Okay, just a second. I need to do the outro. It's much shorter. Thank you, Nik, once again. And in the introduction, I mentioned old saying cash is gold. But after all you have said today, I'm now, I can realistically say online payments and transactions are gold. Thank you, Nik. It was really exciting to hear firsthand what we can expect in the fintech world, and count on you to call me when something big happens, either for you personally or with Google Pay, so we can repeat this great conversation, because I have lots of questions prepared already, but I didn't want to bother you these days. Thank you once again, Nik.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Vidimo se.
Vidimo se.